Hey guys, welcome back to my second video. I thought it'd be fun to kind of do a more getting to know me video on my channel. One of my favorite ever YouTubers who does book content is Sarah Caroli. She shouted out a new creator to me, Katie. I'll put both of their channels here if you're interested, but Katie did Steph Boers, who is another person I love to watch on BookTube. She did this tag forever ago. This is essentially the book recommendation tag, and I would love to hear any of your guys' answers to these questions too. So the first question is a book that you tell people is your favorite book. I'm sure I'll be able to think of multiple books for each question, so I'm gonna try really hard to pick just one. This is The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. I read this during COVID. This book is so powerful, so well written. I had extremely visceral reactions to it the whole time. It's just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book. I feel like I tell people that this is my favorite book a lot. I recommend this a lot. If you like historical fiction, then you already know about this, you've already read it. But if you're nervous about historical fiction, this is such a great book to read. Historical fiction is one of my favorite genres, but I feel like it's totally underrated when it comes to like book talk and booktube. And you know it's a favorite when it makes you feel so much. Question number 2 is a book that is your guilty pleasure. I really don't feel guilty about anything that I read. Okay, maybe Verity by Colleen Hoover. That book is kind of a guilty pleasure. Just Colleen Hoover books in general, I feel like people make you feel bad about liking them. But at the end of the day, everyone has read a Colleen Hoover book, and I'm sure you've liked at least one of them. And Verity, for me, is one of my favorite books, actually. It was just so shockingly good. I could not put it down when I read it. So good. Okay, question 3. A book everyone loved, but you didn't. I actually have a couple for this. So here I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. I absolutely loved the first 2 books, which is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder and As Good Girl, Bad Blood. I did not like As Good as Dead at all. And I feel like this is like a 5-star series for people, and they love it all the way through. And I can't relate to that. Another one I don't want to get out because it's at the bottom of a pile, but I did not like Scythe by Neal Shusterman at all. I did not enjoy it. Oh, I thought of one that's really good for this. It's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I did not love that book. It was extremely like anxiety inducing for me. The premise of what the main character is like overcoming throughout the book stresses me out like a lot. Maybe it's like one of my biggest fears. Maybe that's what it is. That book did not make me feel good things. Okay, we should move on. Ooh, okay, so the book I read the fastest. So if we're being honest, I read Verity the fastest. But aside from Verity, Before We Were Strangers and A Court of Mist and Fury were 2 books that I just ate up, read so fast. A book that deserves more hype. Ooh, this is a great question. Historical fiction in general, I think, deserves more hype. This book right here is The Book of Lost Friends by Lisa Wingate. That is a beautiful, beautiful, amazing book. So, one of my favorite books I've ever read. Very interesting. I don't even want to say what it's about. I just want everyone to read it. It's so good. Oh my gosh. The Rebel King and the Kingmaker. Which book is first? This duology is so good, so underrated. Nobody ever talks about it. By Kennedy Ryan. She's like such an amazing author. Her romance is next level, and she weaves in social justice commentary, but in a way that's so digestible, and you're also just like so obsessed with the romance. Ugh, all of the tropes that you love, you'll love these. Please read them. And I think the covers are really cute. Ooh, and okay, can you see this? This is The Sweet Spot by Amy Popple. I just picked it up very randomly at Barnes & Noble. Such a cute book. Cute is the wrong word. It's a fiction, like it feels like a contemporary fiction, but it has elements of romance, elements of family, elements of coming of age, elements of being older and rediscovering who you are. It is just like a very well-rounded story, similar to like a Frederick Bachman type of tale where you're seeing a bunch of people's different perspectives, and the whole time you're wondering like, how are all of these entwined? And it's based in New York City. It's so good, and no one talks about it. Okay, so underrated. Okay, a book that is becoming a movie or TV show. Katie said these in her video, but she brought up Emily Henry books. So excited. What else do I have? I think I'm gonna interpret the question in a different way rather than like what's becoming, but what I want to become. I would simply die for a Magnolia Parks universe series. If they casted it right and had the right budget to really make it amazing, I would cry. Okay, question 7 is a book that I've reread the most, but I gotta be so honest, I am not a rereader at all. That's something I do want to do, but I am not the person that's ever done that. I read a book, I move on, I read another book. So I think if I was gonna reread a book, it would definitely be ACOTAR. Like I said in my last video, my favorite series of all time, just beyond. I love it so much. So I would love to reread that. I think I would also reread The Song of Achilles. Maybe I'll talk about that book later on in the video, but a book that does deserve all the hype it gets. ACOTAR deserves all of the hype. In my humble opinion, Magnolia Parks deserves all of the hype. I think the One Dark Window duology deserves all of the hype. A book you usually recommend when someone asks for a recommendation. Okay, I said I wouldn't keep repeating myself, so I'm not gonna say ACOTAR. I've told people to read Things We Never Got Over multiple times. I've definitely told people to read Love in Other Words many times. That is an amazing, amazing book. I've lent that to several friends. It's such a good way to get back into reading if you used to be a reader or you never were. That is such a beautiful romance and keeps everybody on the edge of their seat. A book that has my favorite characters. If you haven't read it, I'm not even gonna say who my favorite character is, but just know that person absolutely changed me as a person. I've never felt that way for a character ever in my life. I felt that way like the way that I felt about Harry Styles. Like that level of, I want a poster of you on my wall next to my bed because I'm 13 years old. That feeling. That feeling. A book I wish I could live in. Okay, try to think outside the box here. Oh, 1000% I would want to live in Magnolia Parks. Like, if I was a billionaire in London, please, please. Or I would live in the Inheritance Games. I would be Avery Kylie Graham's. I would love that life. Team Jameson forever. Or beach read. Gus and I. A book you thought you would hate, but you ended up loving. Okay, I never thought I would hate If We Were Villains by ML Rio, but I didn't know I would love it so much. I love this book. I think I was nervous about it because I've never read Dark Academia before. I didn't know if I would feel like they were over intellectualizing everything because I am not that kind of person, but it was amazing. I love this book. I love this book. It's so good. Almost done. A book that made you cry. This is one of my favorite books of all time. If I had to rank my favorite books, I don't even know if I could place them in different, like 1, 2, 3, but The Nightingale, Song of Achilles, and Achamoth. It could have been a good answer to my last question as well. I didn't think I would hate it, but I did not think I would love it so much. I don't know, just like something about the way this book was written and just like, I don't know. It's not a love story. I watched Rachel Catherine read this book on her channel. She went into it thinking it was a love story, and it's not a love story. There's elements of love, but there's also just as equally elements of heartbreak and elements of friendship and elements of family and war, and there's so much in here, and it's so beautiful and tragic. It's a Greek tragedy, and I shed tears. I shed some tears. To be honest, a book that unexpectedly made me cry, Beach Read by Emily Henry. At the time that I picked up that book, there was just certain elements that hit so hard. And I love the love story between January and Gus, but Emily Henry just does such a beautiful job in making her romances have so many true grounded elements of what people really deal with. That's why her books are so compelling. And that book just made me cry. I loved it. Okay, last one. A book I wish I could read for the first time. A Court of Thorns and Roses, the whole series again for the first time. I would read Harry Potter again for the first time. That was my favorite series as a child. It's still like an amazing, amazing series. I should reread Harry Potter. Honestly, nothing else. The thing about me, since I don't reread things, I don't know. I just don't really live with that feeling of, oh, I wish I could experience this again. Once I've experienced it, I feel like reformats my brain, and now that I've experienced it, I'm like, no, I'm good. I've got that. It's a part of me. Moving on. That might be my Capricorn brain. I don't really know, but I would reread ACOTAR because I was so gobsmacked. And then the same thing with like Harry Potter, and I guess I won't say why I was gobsmacked with Harry Potter, just in case you haven't read it, but like there's elements to both of those beautiful fantasy series that just like shocks you, and the author was just like weaving in the whole time that's just like so juicy as a reader. Okay, that is the end of the tag. I hope I gave you some new book recommendations and not just the same ones you always hear, even though I know I definitely did. Anytime I talk about Sarah J Maas or Emily Henry, like there's nothing new there, girl. But I did have some others woven in there. So to reiterate, everybody read Kennedy Ryan, read The Sweet Spot by Amy Pople, read Song of Achilles. That's not like anything special, but if you haven't because you're nervous, read it. Kristen Hanna, I don't know, whatever else I said, just give it a gar and let me know. Okay, bye guys. Hope you read a lot.